Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and welcome to our new lecture in the Prose course. Today's lecture will be about the types of characters, and more specifically, after talking about the types, we are going to apply these types to the characters in Frankenstein novel. So in each type we will compare it to its counterpart in Frankenstein novel, so things will be more clear to us. Actually, there are 7 common character types. They are flat, round, dynamic, static, stuck, foil, and confident. Now let's start talking about round or flat. One question that may help us to decide if the character is round or flat is to answer this question: how do authors decide the amount of detail they include about each character? So, for example, if you watch this video in which Nemo and the shark are characters in that movie, if I ask you which character do we know more about in the book or even the movie, is it Nemo or Prose the shark? Well, you may answer that you know more about Nemo and less about shark. So we can say that Nemo is round character and Nemo is round and shark is a flat character. Well, round characters usually described in depth with many details, so they are called round characters, and usually the round character is the protagonist in the story, since many details about him are described to the reader. Here are some examples of round characters in which they are, let's say, deeply described to the reader. For example, we have Harry Potter, we have Batman, we have also Shrek. Now, flat characters are not described well. They are not given too much attention, not too much, let's say description to the reader, that you are not given much information about. So these are the flat characters. And for sure, they will not be, or they will never be, let's say, the protagonists, since they are not the main, let's say, they are not given main attention, or they are not very important as those, or as the protagonist himself or herself. Consider a drawing. Now let's look at these two drawings: the flat drawing with one-dimensional and the round drawing with more than one-dimensional. Now, which seems more clear to you? Well, a three-dimensional drawing gives more detail than a one-dimensional drawing. If you draw a one-dimensional flat picture of a house, you can only see one side of it. You miss 3 of the 4 sides. A flat drawing is like a flat character. You only receive a few details. There are many things you cannot see, or many details you are not given by the author. Now let me ask you the question: what are the flat and round characters in Frankenstein novel? Let's start by the flat characters. The flat characters can be Alphonse, Victor's father, can be Beford, Caroline's father, William and Ernest, Victor's brother. Those could be or can be classified as flat characters, since they are not given too much description, too much attention. But what about Victor and Frankenstein? For sure, they are round characters, since they are deeply described more, or a lot of huge information or huge of description were given to both, to Frankenstein and to to the monster. So both of them can be considered as round characters. Now let's go to another classification, static or dynamic. How can we define that this character is static or dynamic? Let's answer this question to be able to define. How do characters change or remain the same throughout a story? So the key word here is change. The key word here is change. Which character changes the way he feels about a problem? If there's a change, then it's dynamic. If there's no change, then it's static. So the keyword again here between static and dynamic is change. And the type of change, though, is specific. We are only concerned with internal changes, changes that occur within the character himself or herself. Like what internal changes? The thoughts in the character, his personality, outlook, point of view towards an issue, values, or an overall change in the nature of the character. So static, not the direct meaning of static, which means not moving or not changing. For example, we have static electricity, الكهرباء الساكنة, which stays so until or which stays still, unlike current electricity, which is moving. So, in order for a character to be considered a static character, the character must remain the same throughout the entire story. There must not be any change in his or her character. If there is a change, which is clear to the reader, then the character will move from static to dynamic character. So, the character does not undergo any internal changes. Here, we're talking about the static character, in which the character or the static character does not undergo any internal changes. Now, if I ask you, classify Frankenstein character if it is dynamic or static, the question or the answer will be that he is dynamic character. Why? Because there is usually a change in his character. The novel starts describing his thirst to knowledge, but this thirst increases by the novel, increases till he wants to know the secrets of nature, till he wants to know or to have a power that gods have, to have the ability which a human could not have. He wants to give life to immaterial things. So in the first chapters, we notice a change in the attitude of Frankenstein, that he, step by step, he wants to increase his knowledge. He wants to increase and the books he read by the novel are usually increase, and sometimes he goes to chemistry, sometimes he goes to natural philosophy, till he wants to do something supernatural, like creating or giving life to immaterial things. So here are just examples of static characters. So dynamic character is a character that undergoes an internal change sometime between the beginning and the end of the story. The change in the character usually is crucial to the story itself. So maybe the character may face a problem or a conflict, and then he learns from this problem, so he changes his or her attitude toward a specific things, or he may changes his values. So a main character goes through life altering experience such as a race car. بيصير في حادثة في حياته بتغير من طباعه ومن شخصيته. Such as a race car driver getting into an accident. If the driver's personality changes and he's no longer willing to take on the risk of driving a race car, the character would be dynamic. بمعنى صار معه حادث وبعد الحادث هذا تعلم درس كبير إنه ما رح يتهور مرة تانية أو ما رح يقود بسرعة، فصار عنده تغيير بشخصيته، وبالتالي أنا بسمي هذه الشخصية dynamic character. And usually the changes in character is internal, which means that he or she may like change the way he think, his or her attitudes toward things, his or her beliefs on specific things. Now let's talk about stock, foil, and confident characters. How do certain characters reveal more about setting, theme, plot, or other characters? Let's talk about stock characters. A stock character is a special kind of flat character who is instantly recognizable to most readers. Flat character, which means that it's not a main character. It's not, let's say, a dynamic character. It has a minor role, but this role is like recognizable to the readers. We can say that in a Frankenstein novel, Clerval, who is the friend of Victor Frankenstein, could be a stock character. He's a flat character, which means that there's no much change in his character, but I think he's recognizable to most readers. And here we can describe him as a filler role, not as an important or a basic role in the novel. So those stock characters fulfill background or filler roles, not the main roles. A foil character is a specific kind of character who's used to enhance another character through contrast. In Arabic we say تبان الأشياء بأضدادها, which means that when there are two opposite things, like each thing could be clear to you. So, as opposites, they highlight qualities of a central character, and they are usually static character. So the foil characters are usually static characters like the stock character. Examples of foil characters from, for example, film, we can say that the step sisters of Cinderella are foil characters. They contrast to Cinderella's character. Cinderella is kind, polite, like very nice and friendly character. However, they are, let's say, very rude, very harsh. So their character is, or the character of stepsisters are foil, since they contrast to Cinderella's character. So again, they are not focus characters, nor are they developed in the story. They help us learn more about another character or aspect of this story. And my question to you will be, I want to know, like, who really read the story in details. Can you please provide me with a foil character, or let me say two foil characters who are related to Frankenstein. Frankenstein made two persons with two different thoughts. Can you I'm gonna open a window in the model. If you can, again answer my question. What are the characters who contradict each other? What are the characters who contradict each other in the novel? And both characters are or relate to Frankenstein. So the last kind of confident of characters is confident character. A confident character is a special kind of character who the main character confides in. بمعنى المين كاركتر اللي هم غالبا كل بروتاغونست بيثق فيه، بيعتمد عليه، بياخده كصديق أو خليل له. When the main character confides, for example, shares with or trusts, the confidant reveals qualities, thoughts, and feelings of the main character. A confidant helps us learn more about our central or main character. Confident character in the story could be Frankenstein's friend Clerval, in which Frankenstein confides in, trust, and if remember when he was sick after his creation of the monster, he went to Clerval, in which Clerval nurses him and takes care of him. Now I want you to compare women characters versus men characters in Victor Frankenstein novel. Which characters we found that it's more active and which characters were more passive? The answer is that women characters are more passive than men's characters. For example, if we talk about Caroline and for example Lavenza, the characters were passive. They just take care of men, okay? And also if we talk about Justin, who was accused of being a killer and she's actually innocent. She's not just, let's say, sentenced to death, but the one who knows the truth, who is Victor Frankenstein, he haven't even tried to speak, to say that he knows the real killer. So Justin faces her unjust death. She was not ready to defend herself or to change even the court decision. So women are inferior to men in the novel, and the most clear example is Justin was sentenced to death while she was innocent, and Victor, who knows the killer, hasn't spoken any words that could defend Justin or could, let's say, change the court decision which decided the death of Justin. The court decision which was about the death of Justin. So the last thing here I'm gonna talk about is that in this video is that there is an overlapping between the characters or the types of character. For example, flat character could be static character at the same time, and flat character could be stuck spoiled, or confident. The dynamic character is usually round character, and again it's usually about the protagonist, which is the main character. Okay, it's usually the protagonist, but there could be other dynamic characters beside the protagonist, him or herself.